Let's talk about count two.
Count two.
Just, Kokomo, if you would, pull up page 21.
Here we go. Now we're getting into it.
Actually, you don't need to do it. Count two is the charge from January 10, 2015, the murder of Donovan Thomas. Okay? But before we start talking about the evidence in the case, and we will, let's talk about music. Okay? We know that Shannon was working on music. I think we've made that clear. Through his phone, through the fact that he's always at the studio, through the fact that he has songs on his phone, multiple songs, some we've heard, some we haven't heard. Clearly, that's what he's doing in life. And we've also heard about drill music. We heard from Investigator Viverito, we heard from Antonio Sumlin, we heard from other people. We heard about the common themes of drill music, the things that make you marketable in that space. Okay? Violence, confrontation, having bodies, homicide, guns, more guns, bigger guns, being the toughest, being the baddest, not being scared, being a danger. Okay? And I'm not asking any of you to like that. I'm not suggesting I like that. Detective Underwood, she clearly didn't like it, and I'm not saying she's wrong. But it is what it is. That type of music exists. That type of music is popular. And that's the type of music that Shannon Stillwell was doing. We heard about the common terms in this drill music. Ops, glizzy, blicky, red lights. And we heard 5 of Shannon's songs. We heard Slap Talk, Lizard Walk, Red Light, featuring B-Slime and Vito. We hear about all sorts of violence. We hear about red lights. We hear about glizzies, walk them down, homicides, FNs. We hear it all. And out of context, it doesn't paint Shannon Stillwell in the best light. And I don't think I've ever claimed that Shannon Stillwell is an angel either.
Thank you, PJ.
But it is art. And when he references beating a homicide, when he references beating a murder rap, when he keeps bringing up Donovan Thomas, it's not a confession. That's how he's known. That's what he's known for. That's his selling point in this type of music that celebrates it, much to some of our chagrin. It just is what it is. We saw a post
I don't know why
that Shannon Stillwell made
I apologize, y'all.
on January 27, 2022. Page 24, Mr. Kokomo. And this is the untranslated version, but I'm not hiding from it. The translated version says Peanut Stone Grave. But what does it say? I fell off 100 times, 100 times I bounced back. Life size, hashtag life size lizard. Lizard, what he's rapping under, lizard walk. Okay? And it says Manny Tumpa de Piedra. What's he talking about here? Fell off 100 times. Why does he keep referencing Donovan Thomas? Years later, he's already been arrested for this charge. Wouldn't he be quiet about it?
Right straight, leave me alone.
He would if he did it. But why does he keep bringing up Donovan Thomas? Well, I have 2 things for you to consider. First, maybe, just maybe, on that particular day in June of 2022, Shannon Stillwell had enough. For 7 years, the police put a target on his back, and people had been shooting at him. He was shot at the green store. They shot at his head. He was so bold to go to JJ's Chicken and Fish to get himself some food with the mother of his child and another female who was driving. He was so bold to do that, that when they left that parking lot,
double check and see.
3 men in a car sped up behind him and shot at that car, riddling the back of that car with bullets, shooting poor Tierra Jones in the face, instantly killing the driver, Miss Jones, causing the car to careen and turn.
You flipped the car. And they are not back yet, yo.
Turn over and over and over.
So we're good.
Severely injuring Mr. Stillwell, scarring his head to this day. Putting him in the hospital for months. Putting the mother of his child in the hospital for a month. And then, when the police come to talk to Mr. Stillwell, remember what he does? He feels bad about the situation. He feels awful. He asks the officer, "Can I write a letter of remorse to Tierra Jones's family?" And he does. And then the officer says, "Well, can you talk to me about the case?" And know what he does? He talks to the officers about the case. And he gives names. He gives names of the people that he feels were in that car, that red car that sped up behind him, tried to kill him, and killed Tierra Jones. He gave up those names. And what was his reward? Page 26, Mr. Kokomo. I think it was Investigator Griffin, I think is the investigator that was investigating that case. And what did he tell you? The discovery got out and it was posted online. And the fact that Shannon Stillwell had dared talk to the police to try to help solve the senseless murder of an innocent woman was broadcast on Instagram and social media. And people were chastising Shannon Stillwell and coming at him on social media and in real life over the fact that he was made such a ridiculous decision as to try to bring justice to Tierra Jones's family. That was his reward for that. So yeah, people shooting at his head, narrowly missing at the green store. People shooting at him in a car, killing someone in the car and putting him in the hospital. People chastising him online for being so bold to tell the police what happened, who killed Tierra Jones, poor Tierra Jones. So yeah, maybe in January 2022, just maybe, possibly, he had enough. He was sick of the nonsense. If you want to say it, then I'll be it. You keep putting me down 100 times, you're making me fall, and I keep getting back up. And what's it all, ultimately, what's the origin story of it all? The death of Donovan Thomas. That's how it started. It doesn't mean he did it. That's how it started. That's why he has that target on his back. There's another possibility as well. Mr. Stillwell is just a kid who was raised by his grandmother in Thomasville. Nothing more, nothing less. But all of a sudden, he was known as a tough guy behind this. Wasn't true, but that was the public perception. That was the persona that was thrust on him. And maybe, while he was sick of it, sick of being shot at, sick of being chastised, sick of being threatened, maybe also a calculation was made, you know what? If they're going to keep shooting at me, I might as well lean into this a little bit. That does have traction in the streets. That does have traction in the music industry. Maybe that's why he's hashtagging his rap name in the post. The bottom line is, yes, I acknowledge he's referencing Donovan Thomas in songs. He's not giving any inside information in these songs that wasn't publicly known. Remember, he had been arrested. He'd been at prelims. He knows what the case is about. He's heard testimony about the case by this time, by the time he's making his songs. So he's not sharing any information that only the killer would know. Of course he's not, because he's not the killer. But maybe he is leaning into the bad boy image a little bit. But here's the thing. You might like my explanation or not. But could you put on 27, please? But let's just think. If songs were confessions, what would that really mean? Could you put on 28? Remember that song, Homicide by Lil Woody, Kenneth Copeland? Who played the role of the assassin? Threat, Trevante Turner. You watched the video. I don't think we need to watch it again. Who gets killed? Someone who looks like Donovan Thomas. Who put money on his head? Kenneth Copeland. If songs are confessions, then Kenneth Copeland is confessed. He hasn't been charged. He's not sitting here on this indictment.
Wow.
So maybe songs are just songs. And posts are just posts.
Wow. Hold on a second, Max. Dang. You didn't have to cook like that. And we talked about this when we were going through all these plea deals. The state was dropping murder charges like hotcakes. You're like, don't worry about the murder. It's fine. Don't worry. That murder, it didn't happen. It's clear to see the agenda that they've had throughout this entire trial. Masterful job done by Max in this part. I mean, he killed the entire thing, but this is crazy. And then bringing up Woody at the end, reminding the jury that they gave him immunity and he's most likely the one who committed the crime. Wow. Amazing job by Max.
So let's talk about Donovan Thomas and some of the evidence in this case. Eyewitnesses. Who did we hear from? We heard from Reginald Hendricks. He was a gentleman that was shot. He was standing near Donovan Thomas. He didn't identify anyone. We heard from two witnesses, two people that were in the barbershop, working in the barbershop. They heard shots. They ducked. They described what happened afterwards. No one identified anyone out of those two witnesses. We heard from a man named Sammy Davis, an older gentleman who lived across the street, who knew Donovan Thomas. They called him Car Wash. He washed Donovan Thomas's car. He didn't see anyone in the car. That was his testimony.